Welcome to Empowering Humanity, where we empower humanity through education and inspiration. I am your host, Aimmee Kodachian, not Kardashian. On this segment, it's going to be very special because I'm honored to be asked by the former Attorney General of Nevada to interview me. And we're going to talk about how to turn obstacles into opportunities. So are you ready?
Welcome to the Empowering Humanity Show with Aimmee Kodachian, where you can find inspiration, education, healing, peace, and hope. Today's episode is very special. George Chanos, former Attorney General of Nevada, international keynote speaker, chairman of the board of Capriati's for over 10 years, and the author of Millennial Samurai, has switched roles and will be interviewing the host of the Empowering Humanity TV show herself, Aimmee Kodachian. And now, let's welcome Aimmee and George.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us. My name is George Chanos. I formerly served as Nevada's Attorney General, and I'm here today with Aimmee Kodachian, not Kardashian, and I'm going to interview her about her book, Tears of Hope, which I recently read and found quite extraordinary. And I suggested to Aimmee that I would like to interview her about her experience, her life experience, which I thought all of you could benefit from, and our viewing audience. So first of all, Aimmee, you have an incredible story. I mean, such an incredible story that I understand that you're in discussions right now about a possible movie being made about your story.
Yes, we're starting writing it.
Okay, so that's fantastic, and it's completely understandable to me that would be happening because it is truly an extraordinary story.
Thank you.
So we're going to get personal here, right?
Yes.
Because you've lived a difficult life, right? You had some extraordinary challenges that you encountered growing up, and yet you're here today doing an Empowering Humanity television program. And I think people would be interested in knowing how you got from point A to point B, and so that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So let's begin with a little bit about the hardship, okay? So you grew up in war-torn Beirut, right?
1975.
1975. And how old were you in 1975?
12 years old.
12 years old.
Now you know my age.
Yeah, oh, that's okay. All right. I'm not doing the math. But anyway, all right. So 1975, you're in war-torn Beirut. You're 12 years old. You're a little girl. And you've got some challenges. So first of all, paint a picture for us, not in your family, but outside. What was going on in Beirut in 1975?
Well, it was normal. My father just came one day and he said, you know what, I'm getting some information that some war is going to start. And we need to move to Egypt because I want you all to be safe. And we had that meeting in the living room. They started to do some things out in the streets. And that's why, a lot of people start to know a little bit, about it. But it wasn't war yet.
Okay.
And we finished, actually, the day that we had a meeting with my family in the living room. My father left the room, and my other brothers left. And my father and my mother left to the next room. And I stayed with my older brother, Robert. At that time, I was dealing with a learning disability. Today we know as dyslexia. Nobody understood what dyslexia meant back then. I was punished. I was called I'm lazy and I don't want to study and all that. But I wasn't. But I couldn't read and write, and I had difficulty. And especially when my mom took me for my eye problems, because I said something is jumping and there is something, I can't read. And when the doctor said her eyes is good, then I was punished more, like, okay, you're making some excuses here. So I was telling my older brother, he was 20 years old.
Before we get into that
Yes.
part, so you were dyslexic.
Yes.
You tried to tell your parents about it. You tried to tell your mom about it. She took you to the doctor. The doctor didn't find anything wrong.
Yes.
And so instead of, blaming themselves for not finding your dyslexia, you were blamed for making this up, right?
Yes.
Why aren't you just trying harder?
Exactly.
Right?
You're lazy and making excuses.
Right. So you're a young girl. Were you teased by other children?
A lot. And the teachers. I was punished a lot.
Okay, so it wasn't just your mother who wasn't
no,
understanding.
I was
your classmates didn't understand, your teachers didn't understand, and you were enduring this, right?
Yeah.
And so at 12 years old, there's this moment in time where you're sitting in the living room with your brother, and you're telling your brother about the difficulties that you're having.
Yes.
And you're telling your brother about your ambitions and your goals.
Yes.
You're telling him that you'd like to be a teacher.
You remember?
Yeah,
Okay.
right. And you're confiding in him, and he's your older brother, right? And he's being
He
very
was my favorite, yeah.
and he's being very gracious and very understanding and very supportive, and he's giving you what you need at that time in your life, right?
Absolutely. He
So-
was hearing me.
Okay, so
He heard me.
Right. So
He heard
so,
my pain.
So here's a young girl
Yeah.
that's going through a lot of pain, talking to her older brother that she's madly in love with, and
Yeah.
he's supportive of her. And what happens?
Well, I couldn't believe that much he was like so into feeling my pain. And we were talking like, you say you see the soul through the eyes, and then we were talking in an intimate conversation. And he needed to get his tea from the kitchen. And I said, no, you're not going anywhere because I'm enjoying this conversation. Someone is not blaming me about being lazy. So I told him, you sit here, I'll get up, get your tea. And he looked at my eyes like smiling, okay, well, I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna help you with your education. So I went to the kitchen, just turned my back. I just took one step. And by taking one step, a bomb flew from the window to that living room. And I turned around, and all I could see flames, and my brother was gone. I saw his hand that I felt like he's reaching out to me, and I just froze. And my mother and father was the other room. My mother basically lost her balance. She tried to throw herself from the window, and my father was holding her back. She's screaming and yelling and like, what's happening? And my father holding her back. My father looked at me, he's looking at me, are you okay? And I wasn't, because we were living in a building, 5-story buildings. So after the first bomb came to the second level, every single level was bombed. And with each one of those bombs, I was shaken to my core. So now my mother is trying to throw herself, my brother burning in front of my eyes, and I'm frozen right there looking at my father. And very soon, my other brother and 2 men, they broke the door, they carried me. I was still in my pajamas. And as I left the building, I'm looking back at that room and the smoke coming out of it. I was there a few minutes ago, and now my brother burning there. I couldn't accept it. I could not accept that my brother just gone like that. So that was one of the first bomb came to our house, and the hope was broken. And my mom actually get into panicking, and she started to take medication. So I not only lost my brother, I lost my mother, because now my mother, she's on medication and she's not able to function anymore. And my father left the country for work. They took me and my 6-year-old brother to the mountain for safety. We had no home, we became homeless. And I was in the mountain taking care of my brother. We had other children there, but nobody lost anyone besides me losing my brother. And we had no food, no electricity, everything was shut down. We didn't have phones, cellulars back then. 1975, barely we had phones. So when my parents dropped me off and left, I could still feel the moment that I felt I'm never gonna see them again. They're gone. And then at night, when the bombs starting to fly from one area to another, I used to think, this is gonna kill my other brother, this is gonna kill my other brother, my mother. And I never thought I'm gonna see my parents again. So there I had to take care of my 6-year-old brother. I had to be the older sister and help him. At one time, he was digging in the garbage because we were given very little food. We didn't have anything. And I went to him and I said, what you doing? He said, I'm still hungry. And I gave him my food. He refused to take it. I said, no, you're gonna have to take my food because you're not gonna dig into the garbage. So I was like, he became my why. And that kept me going because I have to have I get responsibility now. But I was afraid. I was just a kid, 12 years old, dealing with losing a family, and just a bomb came and like that. We didn't used to have war before. It was like shocking.
So you're a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Your brother, your favorite brother, just dies before your eyes through a bomb. You were in that living room moments before. It could have been you, right? You could have died as well. Fortunately you lived, but you went through this horror. And then your family lost its home, right? You went into the hills, and you were put in some kind of a boarding school.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're in this boarding school. You don't know if your parents are ever going to return. You've got your younger siblings that you're dealing with and trying to take care of. And the conditions are dirty, and there's not a lot of food, no water, and you're 12, 13 years old while all this is going on, right? And on top of that, you've got a whole new set of kids that you're dealing with. There are other children there as well, right? And you were dyslexic,
Yeah.
right? So you had trouble in school. How did the other kids treat you in the boarding school?
They didn't want to play with me because I wasn't. First of all, I repeated class after class, and I wasn't able to read or write, or even when we go to church, I just couldn't read the Bible. I couldn't do any of that, so I didn't fit anywhere. And I had to really dig into myself to keep me going and be my own best friend. So I developed that relationship, with myself. But this is what happened in that mountain that I never, ever forget. One day when that happened with my brother, it was a bench and then a big tree. I sat on that bench, and then I put my back on the tree, and I looked up and I said, I am scared. I was crying, I was sobbing. I was like, I'm scared. I'm not gonna see my parents again. I have a brother to take care of. I'm still losing my brother. I saw like the bomb is still in my head, and the image couldn't go away from me. And I felt darkness. I felt the fear. I felt all kind of feelings that you wanna feel. And at that moment, because I dug deep inside and I asked for help, higher self, God, whatever, because I had a relationship somehow, I had no choice but to ask for help. But when I reached out, when I went too deep, and I reached out, literally that day, I felt light came through me, came inside of me and filled all this darkness. And I felt a power. I felt energy. I felt like there is somebody with me. I felt there is something guiding me. And I truly, truly believe when we go down deep, we're able to connect with the higher source, with God, with the higher source, or whatever you want to call it. But there is something bigger than us and better than us or understand more than us. So I really connected with that. And I think that's what helped me throughout all obstacles that I had to go through after that.
So you went through all of these traumas. There were other traumas too. You were living in a boarding school and you were sleeping in a room with a bunch of other girls, right? And you talk about in the book a bedwetting experience, and the girls humiliated you and made you feel even less wanted, right? So you're going through all those tragedies, and you dig down deep, and somewhere this fortitude comes back to you, and you're strengthened and you're empowered, and that's what gets you through this?
That's the start, because it created kind of like protection. And I just feel that protection until today. I feel the protection that is protecting me from a lot of things, and it really did protect me from a lot of things.
You did something else when you were in boarding school because you didn't have any friends. You made up a friend. You created an imaginary friend.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Just the best friend that I wanted to have, because I didn't have a best friend. I couldn't be friends with anybody. I was tall, And I was, like I said, repeating classes, so I couldn't keep up with. Okay, so the kids are younger than me. They're not as tall. They don't want to play with me. The kids are older, like the same age. They're already in a higher class. They don't want to play with me. So I was alone. So I had to create something. So I create my imaginary best friend.
Okay, so now at some point you get married, right?
At
And
14.
it happens at a very young age. So shortly after all of this is happening,
Yes.
at 14 years old, you get married.
3 days after my 14th birthday, exactly 3 days.
Wow, that's very young to be getting married, right?
Yeah.
So how was that a positive experience? Not from what I read in the book.
No, it wasn't. Well, I was living in the war, but then my mom thought, you know what, I can't take care of you because, you know, I'm not capable right now to take care of you the way you should be taken care of. You're not going to go back to school. At that time, I was getting really tall and then growing so fast. And what you going to do? You can't go back to school. And the schools were shutting down and, you know, they wouldn't like have a school all the time anyway. And we didn't have a home. We walked into some home and stayed there. We made it our own home. So she said, this is the best solution, is this guy, you know, seems like he likes you. And I kind of liked him too. So it was no problem there. But I didn't know what marriage is. I didn't know, like, okay, my mom, she's saying this. I kind of felt not right, but I just didn't know who to trust, me or my mom. Obviously, she knows what she's doing, but she was on medication. So I walked into the home with 8 people. They didn't know we're getting married. He didn't tell them. And I was not wanted there.
So you moved into your new husband's
Yes.
family's house.
Home. Yeah, he doesn't have a home, but they're better off than we were.
Right. And they didn't know
So
about the wedding.
They didn't know about the wedding. So
And-
I walked into home and they were like,
you're greeted with his
"Who?"
whole family, and they don't
Yeah.
understand how he went
They
out and
didn't
found a
understand.
14-year-old bride and brought her home.
Yeah.
Right?
Who are you coming to our home?
And now you've got to live there
Now I had to live
among
there.
these people
Yes, 3.5
Right?
years.
who are not welcoming you.
No,
And did you have a child?
I don't blame them.
Yeah?
I mean, they were shocked, and the war, and then his brother is older. He's supposed to get married first. He doesn't have any money. So I guess he made that decision because he liked me or whatever it was.
Right.
And I had a daughter at 15.
Wow.
I got a boy, and then it didn't survive because I wasn't able to handle, I wasn't taken care of. So he didn't survive. And I found myself a single mother. I'm still a teenager. And I had to come back to my mom's home where she couldn't take care of me in the first place.
Well, so first
Now
of all,
I'm coming back with the daughter.
So before you became a single mother,
Yes.
you're married to this man,
Yes.
right? And he leaves you.
Yes.
He goes off to the United States.
Yeah, he couldn't handle, I think, the pressure from the family. He couldn't handle the pressure.
Right.
He just he lost his brother. At that time, he lost his sister and brother. And so I was losing people at the same time. So I was losing like my brother and then his sister and his brother, my uncles, and then
So other people were dying.
all the people were dying at that time. So when I came back to my mom's home, I lost my other brother, 24 years old.
Wow.
He fell from 6 stories down. 6 months after my husband came to the United States, I had no idea he was leaving. So I was left, I had no money, no education, no skills now. My mom couldn't even take care of me. I'm coming in with the daughter.
So your husband abandons you, right? Leaves you with his family who doesn't want you. Your family members are dying off.
At that time, he didn't leave me with his family. They made it so difficult that I had to go to my dad, and
So you had to
I
move
had
out.
to say, didn't even move out. I went there to negotiate, like, hey, I can't handle this anymore.
Right.
Can we have solution?
So
But
did-
that's another.
So did people blame your husband for abandoning you?
No, they blame me.
Why did they blame
But
you?
that's the culture. That's the culture. They're gonna look at you and say, "You're a young woman." I mean, I wasn't that. I was okay looking at that time. I'm still,
They thought it was your fault.
Yeah. I mean, what did you do for your husband to leave you?
Right.
Now I was judged.
So not only have you gone through all this tragedy,
Yeah.
and then somebody wrongs you, but instead of him getting the blame, you're
I
getting
get
the
the
blame,
blame.
right?
Yep.
So it's just compounding.
I was blamed all the time. I mean, if I'm going down the building, going up no matter where I'm going, I'm blamed. People, they don't want to be associating with me because I was divorced back then. Divorce was no. And so she's divorced. Who wants to talk to you? Women, they don't want me in because they were afraid, I don't have a husband now. So I was like a disease kind of thing. And I had to really raise my daughter. In the holidays, I had to sit with my daughter. This is going too much right now.
I'm sure it's difficult to think about these things and recall it.
Yeah.
So,
George, you got me there.
you have a young child. You have to feed them.
Yeah.
You're in war-torn Beirut, or at this time, Egypt or Beirut?
Beirut, yeah.
Beirut. And was there food? Was there milk?
No, there was nights that we did not have food. It was nights we didn't have water. It was nights we had to stay under the bunker for several days. It was nights that I had to take my daughter to his family. We became friends after he came to the United States. So then his mother and I, she became like a mother to me, kind of. But then she understood who I was at that time, and she asked for forgiveness and everything. So I really built a relationship with her. And I used to drop my daughter off there just to have food, because I could stay with no food, but I had to feed my daughter.
I want to get to the other part of your story, which is also an amazing part. So there's more to the tragedy and the difficulty that you experience. We've touched on some of it. We've taken you through about 16 years old, but it goes on beyond that, right? For many years, you have to deal with all sorts of crises. A second husband who abuses you. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And the type of challenges that no one should be forced to endure. And yet you're sitting here today, and you have written this amazing book, and you're likely to have a movie written about you. You've done this TV program. Where does this come from? How does the difficulty that you've endured bring you to where you are today? What did you learn? How has it empowered you? How has it changed the way that you think? And how do you think others can profit from your insights that you can share with us? Because you've lived a life that's very different than the life that anyone in this audience or I have lived. And so we can learn from you. So what can we learn from you? What is it that helped you get through this? And what are some of the lessons that you learned? What did your father tell you when your brother died?
Yeah.
What else did you learn along the way?
So there is a couple of things that stuck with me, and especially when I was shaken after my brother died. My father noticed me because everybody was paying attention to my mom because she just lost her son. They didn't pay attention to me. I just saw my brother die. They were paying attention to my mom, and everybody left me. But my father was a very smart man. So he saw me sitting in the corner. I was shaking and crying and all that. He came to me and he said, look at me, look at me. I said, okay. He said, what's wrong? I said, I'm afraid and scared. And he said, okay, I want you to look at my eyes. I'm like, okay. I look at his eyes. I'm very close with my dad. And I looked at his eyes, said, I want you to look at the white in my eyes. I'm like, okay, he had big eyes too. And then he said, I want you to look at the black. I'm like, okay, I see that brown, black, or whatever. He said, listen, sometimes we have to go through darkness to see the light. You might not understand it today, but one day you are going to understand that. So every time I went through darkness, every time I go through obstacles, I wait to see the light.
So that meant something to you.
That meant something to me.
In that moment.
At that moment. And then I'm the kind of person, I couldn't read and write, but I absorb. So my strength, you know how sometimes you don't have a hand, but then you can do things with your legs because your strength goes there.
Right.
So my strength was in my absorbance. I could sit in the room, I absorb in a way that other people can't absorb. And
So like a blind person that hears better,
Yes.
that has a heightened sense of hearing,
Yes.
right? Your dyslexia and some of your disadvantages actually elevated some of your other skills.
Absolutely.
And some of those other skills included an intuitiveness,
Yes.
an empathy, an
But
ability
how
to
can
read
you
people.
explain that?
Right.
How could you explain that? Who would listen to somebody have fourth-grade education? You have to prove yourself now.
Right. And now you are.
I had to prove myself to get to where I am. But it's not about me. I knew who I am. When I was surviving, I thrived, I built a business, and I felt, okay, I could do it. I'm running a business. But is it about me? I just felt there is something minus. It's about paying it forward, just exactly what you did with your book. You're paying it forward. You want to be the light to other people. That's where I breathe every day.
That's what Empowering Humanity TV is about?
Exactly.
That's what you're trying to do with this?
I want to bring people like yourself. I want to empower other people. I want to give them hope. I want to inspire the person that nobody believes in them, and they tell them, you know, you're not anybody and you can be anybody. Why not?
And you're living proof that you can.
Let's bring what you do best. You don't have to focus about reading and writing. I still don't know much to read and write, but I survived in a different way. And you can too. You might have a different disadvantage. I'm going to help you with that. How? I'm going to empower you because I'm going to bring an expert who can guide you to do that.
What makes you want to change other people's lives today? Why are you doing this? Why are you not focusing just on your own life?
There's no purpose. Because I know I witnessed so many people died in my lifetime, and I witnessed all of them. None of them took anything with them. They did. The only thing they took with them is the wisdom they shared. And my father, the only thing he left me with is the wisdom he shared. So to me, that worth a lot. That's why I have so much respect for you, because you didn't say, I'm just leaving money. I'm just leaving my wisdom. And that's more powerful for us as a human being, not to be selfish and keep our own wisdom to ourselves, to empower somebody else. And that's what my mission is, and that's how I thrive.
Well, I think we're out of time, so thank you for joining us. You've just been hearing from Aimmee Kodachian, not Kardashian, and she's the head of the Empowering Humanity TV network, and she's trying to help other people live their best life. And when you think about the challenges that she's been through and how she's overcome that and what she's doing today, it's a remarkable story, and she's on a remarkable journey, and I'm very glad to be part of it and to be invited here with you today.
It's my honor to have you here. I want to show this one, and I get a special book from you that meant the world to me. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. It's amazing, amazing book. I just wanted to thank you so much. Look how beautiful this book is. And I just got a copy from it. That's an honor, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a special book. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I appreciate what you said inside.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Aimmee.
Okay.
It's always great to see you.
It's great to see you too.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Next time. See you later.
If you would like to be part of the studio audience or would like to be involved, please visit EmpoweringHumanityTV.com. Sponsored by The Negotiator Mind, shifts your perspective on life. Red Valley Media Group, EasyWay.tv, and the Women's Federation for World Peace at WFWP.us.